There's an old video on this channel about making your layout individual, and one of the best ways of doing that is to add loads to your freight wagons. So why don't we just chuck a few loads on wagons and we're good to go? No. Let me explain. Now, if like me over the years you've collected all sorts of bits of luggage and tubing and lumps of stuff that you think might make great wagon loads, and indeed they do, but the railway companies were paid to move things from A to B safely and securely and to make sure they arrived in one piece. And therefore they didn't just throw things in wagons, they were carefully tethered down. Sometimes they were packed into other things. And we've already looked at the use of specialised wagons like tanks, like shock wagons, some vans, some opens, a whole range of different wagons that the railway companies owned to move things safely and securely. Now, it's all very well to have things sitting in your goods yard untethered, that is, just sitting on a wagon, but of course once the wagons move that becomes wrong. These sitting in Yarslow yard are just not yet finished, they've only just been painted, but they will be roped and sheeted and made safe. Now, one of the joys of the modern age is that there are people out there doing research for us and posting it on the internet. This particular sheet is all about British Rail containers, and there are far more types of these than I even knew existed. So container traffic is one thing that we like to feature on our layouts, and although this is not a how-to channel, as you know, here's a few quick pictures showing that with a bit of fine chain and some wire used as split pins, making holes in a low fit and in the side of a container give you the ability to chain it onto the load, onto the wagon properly. Incidentally, there's quite a debate as to which way chains ran for the smaller containers on wagons. So it's always good to turn up your railway books and do your own research. Incidentally, as an aside on the question of research, if you download a picture, use it for your own purpose, or you find a picture in a book that you like, it's always worth capturing it, giving it a good caption and storing it away so that you know where to look next time you want it. So I have a sheet with all sorts of references on it with regard to loads and colours and buildings and track work and all sorts of things, so that if I want to look at a particular aspect, I know which book I'm supposed to be looking in. It saves an awful lot of trawling through things and knowing that that photograph is in one of these books somewhere. So back to wagon loads, and timber is another thing that the railways carry a lot of, and sheets like this give you all sorts of information on how to load your timber, so that when we model it we know exactly what we should be doing, sheeting and roping. Now, nothing says the old-time railways like a sheeted wagon, and this particular information sheet gives you details of how the railways used to do that. It was quite an art. We're fortunate that for our loads, any lump of polystyrene or timber or balsa or whatever in a wagon covered up, nobody knows what's inside, but providing it's roped properly, it looks authentic. And don't forget that there were loads that were sheeted and roped even if they were sitting inside open wagons. If they needed to be protected from the weather, the railway companies protected them. Barrels and kegs were another thing that make popular traffic, and they're easy to buy in resin these days or 3D prints. Bear in mind that full barrels and full kegs had to travel on their end, but these ones, clearly that are empty, are in an open shock wagon, but they are roped to stop them moving about. Now, I forget where this photograph was taken, but it's a well wagon on a preserved railway holding two old boilers, and fascinating that it may be, it was taken to show how these things were fixed to wagons. You can see the chains and the ropes holding it all down, and these sort of things are vital so that you can then work out how to fix your sheet metals, your crates and boxes, your round tubes or whatever this stuff is meant to be. Can't even remember what this is. Or even these things. And bear in mind that where you've got things that need to be craned onto a wagon, timber was used underneath them to enable chains and hooks to get underneath. Now here's something that looks simple enough but actually isn't. A loaded coal wagon. I bought these two ready loaded, and to be honest the one on the left is probably overloaded. You can imagine that as it travelled down the lines the top part of this load would simply fall off with the vibration. So you've got to load your coal wagons properly. Coal wagons rarely travelled half full, there was no point, but they certainly didn't travel over full. Again, look at your pictures, look at your research. Well, I clearly can't cover every type of wagon and every type of load and every eventuality, but hopefully I've given you a flavour and hopefully given you a very broad hint that just bunging a few things on wagons doesn't work. You've got to fit them down properly, allowing them to travel. I hope that all makes sense. I'll see you soon.